Okay, hey, all right. Um, so just came from work. Um, I had to um, make a video or just record this in general. Just kind of like so I've been following this idea for a while. Um, a lot of it actually comes from this channel called like Philosophize This, and basically it kind of um, talks about like multiple different topics of like philosophers, all that stuff. Um, but the premise, pretty much, for this idea, this video that I got, again, I was driving home and just like it just hit, and I was like, I just gotta like put it down. Is I believe his name is Emil Cioran. Emil Cioran. Um, I think I'm pronouncing it right. Emil Ciorian's basically idea um, on failure and suicide. I think the way he explains it and the way it's kind of described is just so interesting to me. But I have like kind of like my own interpretation of it. So initially, it's like I don't know, and we live in a world where like obviously like no one wants to like fail, right? No one wants to like obviously everyone wants to like prove to the world, to their peers, family, relationship that they're successful. But what I find interesting is that like in his writing as well is that like he describes like the most influential or not even the most influential, just the most interesting people that he's ever met or people who are like who amounts to nothing, right? The ones who are like failed artists who like wake up like at like 11, 12 o'clock, in the morning. Um, and they have so much to talk about. They have so much to say about life or whatever, but they don't actually have anything to prove or back their artistry. The stuff that they want to put out there into existence, right? And that's also one of my main motivators to why I wanted to just even just for myself, just to have something out there. That way, I can like put my ideas into life because a lot of times like I feel like I have these like thoughts and ideas that are like in the moment it just seems so interesting and it's like I have nothing to kind of like safe keep those ideas and so I think it's like perfect. I can just put it out there. I can always go back and reflect on those ideas. But anyways, um, but they basically from what I understand from his idea is that like again the way that like to fail is that or the way it works is basically the ingredient into enlightenment. Like for you to like one thing I realized, and I can use myself as an example, is like the most of the times, like even now, like most of the times that I was like in my like I guess the new age term is like in your bag or like locked in, where it's like you felt in tune with yourself or to what you needed to do, was when everything else you tried to do like just failed. Or you're at a point where like the existence felt like you or you just felt low at like life. Like everything like you can't really put it into words, but it's just like this like almost like despair. You have to be in this form of like despair where it's like nothing matters and nothing is working, and that's when I feel like your true essence forms, right? Initially this happened to me like years ago, and that's when I first like thought about making like the videos on like just philosophy or whatever, and I uploaded it to YouTube. But I just after that I just never pushed on it and did it again. And then like now that I find myself, like kind of explained this in the first video, in like a new country, like the stuff that I worked hard for initially is kind of like almost like laid to waste almost. Um, and I find myself back in this same mentality. It's like now like kind of force me to needing to do this, and when I end up doing it, I actually end up feeling it actually gives me a purpose and a meaning um, to why I need to keep going and do what I need to do, right? And so that's why I feel like it is generic. Like I know like there's multiple like channels talking about this, so I'm not gonna like keep like going on and on about it, right? Like you guys, I'm sure everyone kind of gets the idea, but like, but to me, it's just so fascinating that like you like how life is just so balanced. You can't like you look out there and you see like the most successful people and you yearn for that. You're like, oh, you see them have the great car, like successful, like a nice place, stable, whatever. But then it's like, but it's almost sometimes a sacrifice because then it's like, but then you talk to these people and they have this almost a lot of the times they don't have no like deep thoughts, you know, about like, cause it's like you're, cause why would they, right? If you were given everything, you like, your life was amazing, like you were living a decent, good life. Why would you need to like? Why would you fall into these types of thinking, like, or need philosophy, or need to think about why life matters when it's like, you know, your life is stable and you have everything you need, right? So it's like usually it's the people who are like have nothing or have nothing to aspire to or have no meaning or this form of despair, you know, that like that's when this creative aspect form, whether it's through art, whether it's through, you know, a newfound passion or whatever. That's kind of usually when this thing forms, right? And like I said, like usually the most unsuccessful people are usually the most interesting. I mean, you could take it even back to like Greece. Forgot his name. Um, but like I forgot his name. But he's one of the philosophers that's like pretty much like homeless, and he was pretty much. I remember like it was like Alexander the Great. Uh, Came up to him and I think was trying to like learn from him or something, and then he was just like, "Yo, like I'm home." Like he's like homeless, chilling, whatever. And he's like, "Yo, like move out the way. Like I think like you're blocking the sun or something like something along those lines. I forgot how it goes, but like you know what I'm saying. It just goes to show that like again like the most unsuccessful people are usually the most interesting. And obviously, this guy became one of the most famous like Greek philosophers, you know, or whatever. Same with like you know like Socrates and stuff. So anyways, I just found that interesting with like the idea of failure. But the second part I want to kind of get into is man like I don't know, like in the moment it's like it hit, so I'm trying to recapture that. But like his idea, Emil Ciorian's idea on suicide. I may get this wrong. Again, this is my own interpretation of it and how I you know how I take it. And but I feel like this idea almost kind of like solves it for me. Like it's in it, if not solves it, it's just so interesting. Like it's like you think about it, it's like bro, like what? Like this is anyways. So basically, his idea on suicide is that like um, usually people are too optimistic. Why do people want to end it? Right? Why do people commit suicide? It's because usually, right, for whatever reason, life is absurd. There's no need to keep on existence, right? It's like this ongoing suffering that now you need to end it all, right? This like usually like that's the cause. Like, there's no need to live because of ongoing suffering. And so basically he states that, and the way I interpret it is that like he believes that like you're way too optimistic, right? Because if you think that life in the ends of itself has no meaning, right? It's suffering, right? That where is for you to die, right? Death, is it not part of life as well? Right? Isn't to live and to die also part of this existence, part of this universe? Death is not separate from that. So if life already has no meaning, if life is suffering, what makes you think that death is separate from that? What makes you think why are you so positive that this for some reason will solve your problem? We already don't for sure know what happens after death. What is to say that there will be even more suffering when you do end it all? You know what I'm saying? That's the way I take it. It's like that's the first point. Is like people are way too optimistic that if you already believe that there is no purpose in existence, you're way too optimistic to think that ending it all will be the solution to your problem, right? And I think that's like an interesting way of putting it. Like I never even thought about that. And like the second point too that he makes is that like and I'm trying to like recapture the idea because I'm still like again, this is why I'm making the video, just to capture my thoughts and have it so that way like I can always look back on. But basically that the beautiful thing about, like suicide and everything like that, is that you can you are given the choice, right, to either do it or not do it. What we know is that when you go and do something, right, whether it's to eat a good have a diet, right, take care of yourself, these are choices you make. Because why? Because it benefits you in some aspect, in some way. And so anything, like usually most of the stuff you do is to you make that decision because it benefits you some way. And so again, like you commit. People obviously have that choice to do it because they think that it benefits them, right? But he's basically saying like his idea is that like one, it correlates to what I first said, but also two, like if you have that freedom to do it, why use it at this specific instance, right? Have you really thought about it through and through to be like, this is for sure when I can use it, right? Like, because the thing is that a lot of times people don't think thoroughly about the situation, right? Because he's not saying don't do it, but basically he's saying you are, yeah, you're given the freedom to use it at any point in time. So then don't you think it's already like too late? Like you've already suffered, you've already gone through the depth of the situation where it's to the point where you're even thinking about it. So it's like if you're already still here and you're already experienced this and it's made you get to this point where you're like, I want to end it all, then it's like, why can't you just save it for when there is a time where it's like just the where it's like the thought automatically just makes you want to do it, right, or something along those lines. But basically the point is that you'll if you use that ideology, you'll never end up doing it because by the time you even the idea even comes to you, it's already too late because it's like, well, then you've already suffered, you've already gone through the period of the the top the critical aspect of just suffering where it's like this situation or whatever makes you want to do it, right? And so it's like, then just save it for a time when you really need it. Because the beautiful thing is that you are given the choice to either do it or don't, right? And so that's what makes life beautiful, is that like it's not taken away from you. And so it's up to you, but just one, think carefully about it and realize that again, you're being way too optimistic, thinking that, yeah, like if life is suffering, if my situation is suffering, that for some reason death would be the cure. And that obviously, if you've already gotten to the point where this is like the most critical aspect of it, you've already dealt with the worst part, right? You've already dealt with, if you're thinking about it, you've already dealt with the worst part. So just basically save it for another time, which then again makes you not ever want to do it. And I'm not saying this is like the cure all and be all, but like it's just so interesting. And I think that, I mean, it could kind of be a cure for it in my belief. But again, like I could be wrong. I'm trying to understand this idea myself, and I want to read more of his work to like really like understand everything. But like I just thought that was an interesting concept. The idea of failure and the idea of suicide. And again, it's just interesting how despair is the ingredient to enlightenment. Most of the time, it's when you're at your lowest that you exceed yourself. You become more than what you were. You know, like most of the think of like some of even the greatest authors, like the guy who wrote Moby Dick. I think he wrote the book, and like basically it didn't become a success, and he ended up like dying like broke and like whatever. And it's like, what I'm saying, or like Nikola Tesla, like same thing, developed like the electricity, like the a form of electricity, whatever, in comparison to like Edison's. And again, he died alone in his apartment, like starving, whatever. And these are some of the most interesting people because of their, not only because of their work, but of just how they thought and who they were. You know, even though in outside perspective, at that time before they died, they weren't quote unquote successful. You know, but those are my ideas. Again, I'm looking to look back on this because I just wanted to drive those 2 points across and have it saved. Because again, like I've never had an idea so interesting, like, and yet like it's just so fascinating to think about. Like again, it's not the cure, but it's just the idea. The idea itself is just so out of I guess to me out of ordinary. It's not something I would normally think about, and so I invite you to also look up his work, and also philosophy or philosophize this. I think is the name of the channel. Talks about this. I think in episode like 59 or something, or 56. Um, but yeah, it's just so interesting. But yeah, thank you guys for listening.